Let me be direct. Your best people are leaving, and you're not seeing it coming. That supervisor who built your quality system already got a job offer. The operator who could troubleshoot a line problem in her sleep checked out 2 months ago. You just didn't realize it until she was gone. This is what I'm calling the manufacturing culture crisis, and it's hitting harder in 2026 than it ever has. The shop floor is emptier, turnover is climbing, and leaders I work with, they're panicking because their gut tells them something's wrong, but they can't quite see what it is. Here's what I know. This crisis isn't random, it's predictable, and more importantly, it's fixable. I'm Shay Blackman. On today's episode of Unlock, Empower, Transform, we're diving into why manufacturing culture is fracturing and exactly what you can do about it. Let me paint the actual picture. It's 5:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Your production floor opens in 13 minutes. 3 callouts. Your shift lead just texted, looking for something else. Your quality inspector quit without notice. Somewhere in your plant right now, someone's been there for years and they're already updating their LinkedIn. This isn't anecdotal. I've spent over 2 decades building HR infrastructure in manufacturing and automotive. I've seen the patterns, and the data doesn't lie. Manufacturing is experiencing retention rates that drop faster than productivity during scheduled downtime. When you lose someone on your production floor, you're not just replacing salary, you're losing institutional knowledge, training efficiency, team cohesion. You're losing culture, and that's the expensive part. Now, leaders usually tell me the same thing. Shay, if we just paid more, they'd stay. But I've worked with companies that offer premium wages. They still lose their best people. Why? Because money doesn't fix a broken culture. At this point, competitive salary is table stakes. It's not a retention lever anymore. It's just the entry fee. The real problems? Managers who don't invest in development, leaders who don't create psychological safety, career paths that are invisible, systems where people feel replaced instead of valued. And here's what I've learned. Organizations that get serious about culture transformation don't just stem the bleeding. They become magnets for talent. When I built Shea Blackman Consulting, I made a deliberate choice. I wasn't going to be a traditional HR consultancy. I've done that work. I know how to build HR infrastructure from scratch. I've negotiated labor agreements with a 96% ratification rate. I've cut safety incidents by 60%. I've moved engagement needles by 9% in highly unionized, resistant environments. But that's reactive work. Someone leaves, you replace them. Culture breaks, you try to fix it. By then, you've already lost time, money, and momentum. At CBC, we do something different. We use data. We use predictive analytics. We look for patterns that tell us which employees are at risk, not after they quit, but 3 to 6 months before they walk out the door. Why does that matter in manufacturing? Because reaction is expensive. Prevention is strategic. In manufacturing especially, where margins matter and competition is fierce, you need to be surgical about where you invest your culture dollars. My automotive background gives me something most HR consultants don't have. I understand operational constraints. I get the complexity of managing union and non-union workforces simultaneously. I know shift dynamics. I understand that you can't fix culture if it disrupts production. And I've measured what actually moves the needle in these environments. Not soft metrics, but real business impact. There's a manufacturing organization I worked with that was facing exactly what I'm describing. Good company, strong operations, solid products, but culture? Broken. They were running turnover over 40% annually, best supervisors leaving, new hires not making it past 6 months. The people who stayed? Burned out, cynical, defensive. When we started, I didn't do what most consultants do. No reorg, no pizza parties, no energizing team meetings. We listened, we assessed. We looked at the actual data to see where the bleeding was happening. Which departments, which tenure levels, which demographics. What we found was fascinating. It wasn't pay. It was three things. People didn't see a future for themselves in that organization. Their managers weren't investing in their development, and the messages from leadership didn't match what people experienced on the floor. So we built a targeted intervention. We helped leaders clarify career pathways, real, tangible growth options. We trained managers on coaching conversations and building psychological safety. And we aligned what leadership was saying with what people were actually experiencing. In 6 months, they cut turnover by 40%. 40%. Hiring costs dropped, training efficiency improved. But here's the win that mattered most: engagement climbed. People wanted to be there. Their best people weren't updating their LinkedIn anymore. That's what strategic culture transformation looks like. Before we move into solutions, let's be real about what makes manufacturing different. This isn't corporate. This isn't tech. This is manufacturing. First, the skills gap. You're competing for talent in a market where skilled trades are scarce. You're up against tech companies with unlimited budgets, and you're navigating generational shifts where loyalty to one company isn't the cultural value it used to be. Second, complexity. You've got union employees, non-union employees, shift workers, office staff. You've got operators with completely different needs and aspirations than your procurement team. Creating cohesive culture across all that, that's not a checklist, that's chess. Third, leadership development. Not every plant manager is trained to lead culture transformation. Not every supervisor knows how to have a development conversation. And yet, they're your frontline culture carriers. If they're not equipped, your transformation stalls. Fourth, measurement. Leaders ask me all the time, how do I know my culture is actually changing? You need real metrics, not engagement surveys people game. Leading indicators that show you where people are at risk, where your culture is strong, where it's fragile. That's why I built predictive analytics into my work, because you can't improve what you don't measure, and you can't predict the future with yesterday's data. Here's what I want you to do this week. It's called the Retention Risk Audit, and it comes straight from my high-value leadership methodology. Step 1, identify your flight risk. Look at your team. Who are the 3 people you absolutely cannot afford to lose? Write their names down. Step 2, get honest about the conversation. When's the last time you had a real conversation with each of them about their future? Not a performance review. An actual conversation about where they want to grow, what they want to learn, what would make them excited to come to work. If you can't remember, that's your answer. Step 3, diagnose the gaps. For each person, ask yourself, do they see a future here? Do they know how to get there? Have I invested in their development recently? Do they feel valued, genuinely seen and invested in, not just told? Step 4, here's the game changer. Align their growth with organizational need. Find the intersection between what they want to learn and what your organization needs. That's where real engagement happens. That's where people decide to stay. Now, this is where my Shield Resilient Strategy Guide becomes critical. The guide teaches you how to build psychological safety in your team. Because here's the truth. You can't have honest conversations about growth and future without psychological safety first. The guide walks you through the 6 pillars: self-awareness, healthy coping, internal resources, external support, learning orientation, and daily practices. It shows you how to assess where your team is and where you need to focus your energy. This isn't theoretical. This is exactly what I do with manufacturing organizations every single day. And when leaders actually commit to this work, their retention rates shift, not tomorrow, but measurably. I need you to hear this. Your culture isn't a soft skill. It's not a nice to have. Culture is your competitive advantage. In manufacturing, where margins matter and competition is fierce, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Organizations that build resilient, growth-oriented cultures don't just stop the bleeding. They become places where people do their best work, where innovation happens, where teams actually solve problems together instead of protecting turf, where safety improves because people care. This is exactly what the high-value leadership intensive course teaches. We're beyond traditional leadership development. We're teaching leaders how to build cultures where people want to stay, where they can thrive, where the work means something. If you're a manufacturing leader right now, you're at an inflection point. Keep doing what you've always done and watch your best people leave. Or get strategic about culture transformation. My book, High Value Leadership: Transforming Organizations Through Purposeful Culture, walks through this entire framework. It's not HR theory, it's what I've tested in real organizations: manufacturing plants, automotive suppliers, healthcare systems. Before you go, get the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide. It's free. Download it now. The link is in the show notes. The guide walks you through building psychological safety, assessing your team's resilience, and creating development pathways that stick. While you're downloading, leave a comment. I want to know, what's the biggest retention challenge you're facing right now? Are you losing people to burnout, lack of growth, better opportunities elsewhere? I read every single comment, and your input shapes what we talk about next week. Next Thursday, we're going deep on Smart Factories Need Smart Culture, AI integration on the shop floor. Because AI is coming to manufacturing, if your culture isn't ready for that transformation, your people won't be either. If you're serious about building a culture where your best people actually stay, where engagement climbs, where you stop playing culture catch-up, the High Value Leadership Intensive course is where we do the deep work. It's intensive, it's practical, it's for leaders who are ready to transform, not just manage. Get the details below in the show notes. Until next time, your culture isn't built in the boardroom, it's built in the conversations you have, the investments you make, and the future you create for your people. So go unlock, empower, and transform.